fucking amazing for the last 10 years.
Let me start off on the Twitch feed this morning, and I got to get the whole name right. Mile High Hockey Lab.
The city of Denver, the state of Colorado, you guys have been fucking amazing for the last 10 years.
Let me start off on the Twitch feed this morning, and I got to get the whole name right. Mile High Hockey Lab.
The city of Denver, the state of Colorado, you guys have been fucking amazing for.
Welcome to
Mile High Hockey Lab.
Mile High Hockey Lab.
Hello and welcome to the Mile High Hockey Lab. My name is Adrian Hernandez. I am here with the usual cast and crew, Ezra, Jackie, and Evan from Mile High Hockey. We are here to talk Colorado Avalanche and honestly all things NHL today, as some might consider today somewhat of a holiday, given that all 32 NHL squads will be playing on a staggered schedule today. I'm not going to give a free promo, but I will say it's a pretty awesome broadcast that's going to be held today to honor that 32 team frenzy. We'll just put it that way. But let's talk about Colorado Avalanche. Thank the three of you for joining me. As always, folks, if you are enjoying this show, please subscribe, share, turn your alerts on so that you know every single time we are live. We have a new and improved Spotify catalog. So if you are a podcaster like I am, I'm more of the crime junkies type. But if you get into hockey, head on over to Spotify. You'll find us there, Mile High Hockey Lab. Every episode is released the following day from our live broadcast. So today we're going to talk a little bit about the Avalanche being undefeated, Gorgiev's success, as well as the PK. Of course, we're going to touch on LOC's shorthanded record and Makar's fastest to 250. And last but not least, we'll preview the Islanders game tonight and give our bold predictions. So that's my spiel. Now let's get into it. The Avs, as I mentioned, are undefeated right now, sitting 5-0. Perfect start to the season as it sits currently. Evan, I'll start with you. The Avs, like I said, rocking and rolling right now. What do you take away from their undefeated streak? Does it mean anything to you, or is it too early? Go for it.
You know, I do think it means something, right? It's not like throwaway games, right? Like you have, I feel like you've seen 5 very different games to start the season. You've seen like the dominant game against Chicago. You've seen the chaotic craziness that was Carolina. And then you have like a very tight game against the San Jose Sharks of all teams, right?
Yeah.
It shows that this team can play in different ways, right? And that is, I think that's pretty promising, right? Through the first 5 games, we've had no injuries, knock on wood, right? And and I think that's a good sign, right? That's a good sign of your team, at least on paper, what they're supposed to do, what they look like, right? Now, if there is an injury that goes down, or if Logan O'Connor can't keep up his shorthanded scoring streak, then who knows what happens, right? So it's definitely still early on, of course, but I'm promising. That's not English. I like what I am seeing so far from this Avs team.
Hey, we're getting into this right now, but we can't all operate as well as the Avs had to start the season so far. So it's okay, but I'm with you there. I think the Avalanche have done, as you said, a good job of winning in different ways. And we talked a little bit ahead of the season, and one of my big points and one of the things I was really keying on was, are the Avalanche able to beat the teams they're on paper supposed to beat? And obviously when you're undefeated, that can only be true. But I think that holds true, especially like you mentioned, that San Jose game, which no one really saw coming in terms of how it really played out. but the Avs found a way, and I know that that's less than subtle irony, but that's really how this has gone for the Avalanche so far. But I'm gonna head on over to Jackie. Welcome back, Jackie. I
Thank
want to ask
you.
you, I want to ask you about the goalie. Mr. Alexander Gorgiev has been tremendous so far for the Avalanche this season. Would you agree with me in saying that he's probably been the best Avalanche so far?
Yeah, I'd say so. I think also like Miko and McKinnon probably deserve shout outs in the MVP category, but
Mm.
I guess if we had to choose one, I would definitely say that he is, and he's been impressive, and the league gave him second star of the week, so they agreed to.
Right. Yeah, and you mentioned Miko and Nate. Touch a little bit on them as to why you think maybe they have something to say about it.
Well, I would say the scoring, in particular at 5-on-5.
Right.
It is interesting that everybody that's played regularly has a point at least, so that's nice.
Mhm.
But if you dig into the 5-on-5 numbers, they're carrying the team. I think one of them has 5 points, one of them has 4, and I'm talking at 5-on-5.
Right.
I think Miko has 8 points overall, but so I think that um, they're kind of quietly carrying the team a bit, especially in the scoring department. If you dig a little bit deeper, and so that's why I'd give it to them.
I'm with you. I'm with you on that. Especially, to start the season, we all kind of assumed that sometimes the big guns take a little bit longer to get going. Namely, Nathan McKinnon, when he's kind of getting his start, sometimes he comes out of the gates a little rocky, but that has not been the case this season whatsoever. The other thing that's been pretty impressive so far, to the tune of only giving up one penalty kill goal for a second there in, I think, 20 some chances. The PK has been excellent, and Gorgiev has been excellent, specifically on the PK, where I think goalies are leaned on the most. Ezra, what do you think has kind of been the key to the improvement that we've seen so far on the penalty kill? Is it really as simple as just being healthy?
I mean, being healthy is a huge factor. When you've got all the guys in your lineup you're expecting to do their jobs, they're able to do those jobs. But I do think, like, what I've really enjoyed watching from this penalty kill so far is how well they're balancing being aggressive and being structured, because they're coming out to pressure everybody at the point, but they're never abandoning the quick recovery option that they have. Even when you see Logan O'Connor breaking out for shorthanded goals, he's doing it from a position where he could easily get back and defend if he needed to.
Yeah.
It's really I love what they're doing, because it's making it easy on Georgiev. He's still making amazing saves on the penalty kill, and there have been some. We saw the Jared McCann whiff in the Seattle game. There have been some lucky moments as well. But for the most part, they're keeping pucks to the outside. They're pressuring when the puck is in a shooting or passing position, and they're not giving anything easy to anybody except, again, Jared McCann on that whiff.
Yeah.
But for really, it's been a really impressive sequence on the penalty kill. Obviously, with 3 shorthanded goals, that goes a long way to
Yeah.
do it. But they are, if you count both those Carolina goals as power play goals, even though one came after the penalty expired, just barely, they're still up 3-2 in goals. So it's going pretty well this year.
Yeah, that's funny that you put it that way, because I hadn't thought it that way. They're winning 3-2 on the penalty kill right now, which is quite phenomenal. I think if they can manage to stay ahead in that race, we'll be talking about something really incredible.
Yeah.
I feel like getting back to Gorgiev too, and this penalty kill, I feel as a fan, this is probably the most confident I've been in a goaltender in those kind of sketchy situations when the puck is kind of scrambling in front of the net. I don't quite get as nervous as I have in years past. Evan, is that true for you too? And can you touch on maybe why you think that might be?
Yeah, I think you're right with that assessment, and I know I'm the baby of the group, so I wasn't around during like the Patrick Waugh era.
Right.
So I mean, just thinking back to like the goaltenders the Avs have had in my time, I think of Craig Anderson, I think of Semyon Varlamov, like I think of course Kemper and Grubauer. None of those names I think really stand out to a point where I'm confident that this is the number one guy. I think Kemper was probably the guy
Right.
up until this point, mostly just because, of course, he won a Stanley Cup with the Avs in his 1 year here. But maybe you other folks in here might have a better answer to this, but like I don't think I've been this confident in an Avs goalie ever since I wasn't around for the Patrick Waugh era. So
Yeah.
maybe like you guys can say, oh, for the I'm as most confident as I've been since watching Patrick Waugh playing in Avs jersey,
Well,
or something along those lines.
I'll say this. I was pretty confident in Georgiev last year. Like, there's just such a you just never worried about him. Like, we had so many other things to worry about last year, and it was just never about him. And also, he was healthy the whole year. Knock on wood, that was fantastic too. So I don't feel any different this year. For me, it's kind of carried on from last year, but he does bring such a calmness to the position. Just it's just consistent, like it's settled. And like with Kemper, it always kind of felt like the other shoe was going to drop. He just had all these weird things happen to him, like the equipment and the eye thing. And I don't know. It was just always something. There was just a little bit of weirdness going on. And so I think, and also his play was maybe just a little bit more inconsistent, but obviously when his play was good, it was very good. I'd say for me, Georgiev is comparable to Varlamov. For me,
Agreed.
in his heyday, he was really solid, like especially in his peak in his Avs career. I think he got run out of town a little bit. I don't know why people were expecting like better than him. And I think we kind of saw that until we bridged the gap here to Georgiev. So for me, I think they're comparable at this point. And Varlamov was very good back then. So to me, that's a compliment.
Well, in hindsight, I think if you look at the situation and you're like, well, Varlamov's playing at 35 and Frankie is having another season-ending style injury and surgery potentially. So it's like, well, it's easy to have hindsight and be like, maybe Varlamov could have worked as the backup here, but he was asking for quite a bit of change, I think, at the time. So I think that had more to do with it. I'm with you, though, Jackie. I think that's the last time I felt similar to this. I will say, though, that Varlamov did have that like one incredible season. I think he just like absolutely carried the Avalanche that season to the tune of everyone calling them the luckiest team in the league that year.
So the year that he probably should have won the Vezina.
Exactly. And I'm not saying he's not a great goalie, because I think he is. I just think the Avs fans in particular held on to that version of him, which was so not going to happen on a repeated basis, that it made it easy for us to let him go, because he wasn't what we thought he could be, which I think was unrealistic in the first place. Now, fast forward to now,
the team was pretty bad.
Exactly, that's what I was going to say.
In his later years, like
yeah,
I think
fast forward to now,
a reason why 48 points happened when he finally went down.
Exactly.
There was a big difference there.
Well, that's funny that you point to that, because I was going to say, fast forward to now, and Georgiev comes in with pretty much no expectation, because he comes in as a former backup. We basically, it's just, there's nowhere but up. He starts off strong with his first 40-win season of his career as a starter, and he's on a great team. So I think it bodes really well for both Georgiev and the Avalanche right now in particular.
I think he would have got a lot of hate, though, if he didn't play well, and then it would have been like his fault that we didn't win the cup again.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a slippery slope around here for goaltenders. No doubt
the fact
that
he held up his end of the bargain definitely worked in his favor. So he has built up that credibility at this point.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
It was rolling the dice again to go off the back of winning the cup to another new goalie, and it's like, are they going to keep doing that? And there's even less money available now to be able to pay him, and so it is a little scary wondering about what are we going to do when we have to move on from him. But we have 2 more years, so we'll just put that one on the back burner.
Yeah, he'll probably be, obviously, if things go as they're going so far, at least a Vezina candidate, which will bode well for him and his camp come negotiation time. So you're totally not wrong, Jackie. Although it's awesome to see him be successful, that's the dilemma of being a sports fan these days. But speaking of dilemmas, we're kind of in one tonight ahead of the Islanders game, with Logan O'Connor, as previously mentioned, on an absolute heater with PK goals. He's got 3 in as many games, and has tied Joe Sakic for the Avalanche record of most in as many games. If he scores tonight, he will tie shorthanded goal tonight, he will tie the NHL all-time record, which was set by a Maple Leaf back in 1990. So I believe Reed was the player
Dave,
who.
Dave Reed.
Yep. So if you think about it, dilemma, right? If I ask you a question, Ezra, I'll go to you. Would you rather see the Avalanche not be shorthanded a single time tonight, or do you want to see them down a man? Because why aren't we going to get Logan O'Connor a chance?
I'm gonna hedge. I'm gonna put it this way. I'm gonna say I'd like to see Bo and Byram not take any penalties. If they
Okay.
if they're shorthanded another way, fine. But as long
Yeah.
as he plays clean, I'm good.
Yeah, that's great. Well, yeah, I was gonna say I think the Avs are averaging like 4 or 5 a game
Yeah.
right now, so I don't think that they want to keep that clip kind of going. As impressive as the penalty kill has been, I think that it's safe to say the coaching staff and players would like to take that approach as a little less than they have so far. But Jackie, what are your thoughts on the situation? And tell me, do you think are you seeing anything from those 3 goals that make you feel like this is intentional, or has it just been sticking to what you're supposed to do on a PK and it worked out in Logan's favor?
I might say that they're probably being a little bit more aggressive, and then obviously when it works, that helps too. I think also the consistency of the units being healthy, or O'Connor and Cogliano have been together as like a forward pair on the penalty kill. So I think all those things work in their favor.
Mm-hmm.
So just like one of those little oddities that when it works, it works. So I'd say early season, it'd be pretty unlikely to see a game with no penalties. I mean, I know Byram's the meme and everything, but you have like McKinnon and Makar, who are both very low penalty players, and they
Mm-hmm.
each have like 3 minors. So it's kind of the way that the games are called early in the season. A lot of gray area stuff as well. So so I'd like to see him have the chance, but I agree it would be nice to have a no penalty game as well. But I don't think we're gonna have to worry too much
Yeah.
that O'Connor's gonna get his chance, because there will be one penalty. So
Yeah. If I had to
but
bet the house, I would bet the house on there being a
yeah.
penalty called on the Colorado Avalanche tonight, just based on how things have
But
started.
we'll just do one. We can have
Yeah.
a game with one. I think we can take that.
We got Brian from Nashville says, "What are y'all thinking of my man Ryan Johansson?" Well, Brian, I think he's been pretty good so far. And Evan and I ran into each other at the game after our episode last week, and at the home opener. And his bold prediction nearly came true because Ryan Johansson had a power play goal. So we're loving him so far. Hopefully Ryan Johansson can keep his success going, especially on the penalty. It seems like the Avalanche special teams has been excellent. And as I mentioned, LOC on an absolute heater with goals. The other person who started off strong and has already found himself with yet another achievement and accomplishment is Cale Makar, who's the fastest defender to 250 points ever. And I feel like that's kind of not talked about almost as much as it should be. And I guess I'll send this one to you, Evan. Do you think it's one of those things where Cale has won so much that every accomplishment after the last one is less and less impactful, or what's going on here?
I think that's part of it. I think part of it is also just the fact that Logan O'Connor has done something also that is as historically amazing within like the same like week, and maybe something that fans weren't expecting versus maybe they were expecting Makar to get to this mark at this point. But yeah, I think though you're right that it isn't really being discussed all that much. And I think that's really only for one reason. It's because it's Cale freaking Makar. Like when you look at who he's been compared to in the history books for all time, like he's even up there with freaking Bobby Orr, like in terms of the point total like that.
Exactly. In this record, he did it in I think 5 or 6 less games than Bobby Orr.
Yeah.
So.
And so like it's just incredible what he can do as a player that at this point, it just kind of seems like second nature. I think that's just kind of where Avs fans are at, honestly.
Yeah.
So I think that's awesome, and that he's getting such recognition, at such an early age in his career.
Yeah, and I think if he has a long career, knock on wood, that his success when compared to the likes of Bobby Orr will probably be even more gaudy because Orr didn't have that long of a career in comparison to what these guys today have the potential to play. Um, Jackie, I want to send this one to you. What have you seen from Kale that maybe you haven't seen before, if anything, so far this season? And what's the meat left on the bone for a guy like Kale McCarr who's accomplished so much?
I don't know that I would say he's done anything different yet.
Okay.
I don't think he's on another level or anything like that. I think um, for him, really, I mean, he's shown that he can just be so dominant and productive. It's not really that. I think that's obviously the longevity and the consistency. He has to show that he can stay a little bit healthier. I think that's going to be a big thing for him. And he is very consistent. Like, he's always impactful. But I just think it's just a matter of staying on the highest level he can for the longest he can. So I think it's good to say that this year he's kind of just been, for him, average, and that's still incredible. So that when he hits those next levels at some point in the season, it will carry the team. But he hasn't had to at this point. So, and as far as the record, I would just say it's because it's just random. Like, what's the next one? 300,
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
375,
Yeah,
350. Like, no one is like, boy, I hope he's the guy that hits 250 the first in his career. It just sounds kind of
yeah, that's
made
a good
up.
point. Yeah,
So, even though, yes, it is incredibly impressive to beat Bobby Orr in anything, and McCarr's just going to keep knocking down these kind of dominoes of the first to however many points, etc. But, um, I think we're looking for more bigger things to add to the trophy case. Another Norris. Can he win the Hart Trophy? Uh, Things like that. I think are more on the horizon for him than the kind of like these little goalposts.
yeah.
But they're still cool.
I feel like the trifecta, or even maybe the I guess I don't know, if he could win a Norris, a Hart, and a Conn Smythe in the same season, that would probably be the coolest thing any player's ever done. And it's crazy to me that I feel like that's entirely possible.
I
Like,
mean, for a defenseman to win the Hart Trophy would be like mind blowing just to begin with. Just even
Insane.
yeah.
that one.
But I mean,
It,
say
and the
say he
fact that
has like
it's
40 goals. You know what I mean?
yeah, he'd probably have to have at least 30. I mean, he'd have to have just a singular season that's just incredible. Probably at least
Unreal.
30 goals,
Yeah.
probably at least 100 points. But the fact that it's realistic and the fact that the media would consider him and give it to him, which a lot of people would think, oh, defensemen have their own award, goalies have their own award. But the fact that the door's open for that to possibly happen is pretty big.
And it's just funny. I think I don't want Edmonton fans to take this out of proportion, but if this
They will.
McDavid injury, if this McDavid injury lasts longer than 2 weeks,
It's true.
just
It's nice.
saying.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice. It would be nice to make the award race relevant again. It's so boring to say, oh, McDavid's going to get it no matter what,
Yeah.
even though on the back of 70 power play points last year, McKinnon
70.
actually had more 5-on-5 points than McDavid last year, not per game, total. So, yeah, I
What
would
was the phrase going around? Power play merchant?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
That by the way was not me saying that McDermott should stay hurt. I hope he recovers.
No,
genuinely.
you don't want to
No,
see
we didn't
anybody
He's
who
good, of course.
especially-
And McDavid is McDavid. He's stupidly good. It's not like I'm not gonna enjoy his highlights. It's just
Yeah.
if they're against the Avs is when I think we have issues.
Just the viewpoint that it's his award until he retires. I think it's just stupid.
Yeah, you hear people in Edmonton saying like, "Oh, they should just rename the award." Yada yada. I'm like, come on now.
He should be in the mix every year. Like, he's an
No
elite
doubt.
player. For me, the thought process that he's just head and shoulders above every other elite player in the league is, to me, is incorrect. So I think
Yeah.
the door should be open for everybody every year. And just because he scores 70 points on the power play, does that mean he has to win the Hart Trophy every year? I don't
Right.
think so. So it is refreshing to see that maybe there'll be a real conversation about it. And of course, I hope he recovers. It's good for the game to have all the good players playing.
Yeah, and look, we got that was Brian from On the Forecheck that was commenting. He said Don't ever have that idiot from On the Forecheck on your show again. I assume you're talking about yourself, and that's mean.
Come on,
Don't
Brian.
be so mean to yourself like that. I'm actually going to get on that. Maybe next episode we'll have ourselves a guest from one of the sites of the
Sneak
teams that the
peek.
Avalanche are playing. So keep your
Sneak
eyes
peek.
peeled on that as well. I think we're going to be doing, I previewed this a couple weeks ago, but for sure next week we'll be doing a ticket giveaway as well. So next week's show is a big one. So if you haven't already subscribed or checked us out on X as it's referred to now, please head on over there. You can see our little ticker on the bottom. It'll give you our at and everything else. So I want to move on. We're kind of cruising through this episode, which I love, by the way, because then we have more open conversation at the end. So let's just get right into the Islanders preview. Ezra, I'll start with you.
Sure.
Ahead of tonight's game, is there a matchup that you're keying on in the forwards group, or maybe forward on defender, something like that? Anyone in particular?
It's not so much a matchup. I've been keying on the Gerard Byram pairing, seeing how they're holding up against sterner competition. I thought they did a much better job against Carolina than they had earlier, and so I'm curious to see what they do against the Islanders. The Islanders have a pretty solid middle six group, and they'll most likely get most of their ice time against those guys. Nobody in particular on New York stands out to me as somebody to watch matchup wise, but definitely like how Byram and Gerard hold up against that middle six is interesting to me.
Okay. Evan, do you agree with that? Or do you have a matchup that you're keying on? And how do you see this one shaking out?
I will admit I am excited for like the Frozen Frenzy stuff. That'll definitely be fun to watch.
Yeah.
I might keep on like the ESPN like plus side, like on the side maybe. It's just a shame that like marketing wise, like it hasn't really worked out that well, especially since there's a certain something happening tonight involving what he's wearing. That's starting probably in like an hour and a half. But
Yep.
I think at least competition wise, I think I'm interested to see kind of how Bo Horvat does.
Okay.
Since this is now his first full year in an Isles uniform.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of Avs fans wanted him in an Avs uniform, right? And then of course there were a lot of links last year of Horvat maybe being an Avalanche member. That didn't end up happening in the end. And, I didn't really think it was going to happen really at all. I don't think the Avs weren't really going to take that risk, especially with the unknown status of Landeskog at that time.
Right.
So maybe the Avs will see what they've missed out on, or the lack of what they've missed out on tonight, with him up there on that top line. So that'll just be interesting to watch. He's had a slower start. I think he had 4 points in 5 games so far. I think it's like 2 goals and an assist or something like that.
Yeah.
So nothing, too powerful for the former Vancouver Canucks captain, at least up to this point. But we'll see how he does.
Yeah, and I did the preview today for Mile High Hockey, and if you haven't already, head on over to our website, milehighhockey.com. We got all our previews, recaps, and opinion articles there, so you can get more Avalanche content. But as I was saying, I wrote that the Islanders on paper look like they're having scoring woes. They've have 2 of their 4 games. They've only put up 1 goal. I will say, though, with a deeper look, you see that one of those games was on a back-to-back, which was their most recent game against Buffalo. So I think that I'd give them the benefit of the doubt in terms of those potential scoring woes. We'll see, though, against a team like the Colorado Avalanche, who so far have been able to limit scoring from all teams. I would say they even kept the Hurricanes to a lower tick than they're capable of and typically pushing at. But, Jackie, I want to send one your way. Tell me, what do you think of this game tonight? How do you think the Avalanche will fare? Are there any challenges that we might not be keen on right now?
I'll preface this by saying the Islanders are probably my least favorite team.
Okay.
That's right.
That's right.
I forgot about that feud.
Yeah, other than
rivalry night.
Other than obvious Avalanche rivals like the Wild, I just don't like the Islanders. I don't like anything about them. But correct me if I'm wrong, I think they've started well, though. I think they were undefeated through maybe like 3 games or something. I think they've had a decent start. So
I think they're 2-1-1.
They did have a good start, though. You are right.
Yeah,
about that.
I think
maybe they won the first 2, then something
exactly.
like that.
Yeah.
So I think with them playing well and the Avs playing well, it'll be a good matchup. I think this might be a tough, lower scoring game than maybe people expect. Um, and I also believe, I remember one of the games the Avs played against the Islanders last year. I don't remember the second one really, but the one where the Avs really like blew a lead and then lost. I
Yeah.
think
Mm-hmm.
that one was a little unexpected because the Avs usually don't do that. So I think the Islanders are sneakily a little bit of a tough opponent. I think, as Ezra mentioned, their middle six is good. They have a lot of role players. And then their game breakers, I'd say, like Matt Barzal. He's one of the players I like on their team. And also Noah Dobson, I guess if you're going to look for anybody. Another young guy that might, elevate his play against the Avs. So that's kind of what I'm expecting. I think the Avs might drop one on this road trip. Could be tonight, could be Pittsburgh, but they can't win them all.
Yeah.
But I
I
kind
know.
of expect a tight one here, like a 3-2, 2-1. And I do think the Avs are going to need a goal from somebody like Colton, Wood. Somebody's got to step up. So that's what I'm looking for tonight.
Well, that's funny that you mentioned that because that's part of my fourth question here in the
Oh,
preview
okay.
is it feels like tonight we're going to need those contributions scoring wise from the third and fourth line. As you mentioned, that middle six for New York is tough, and they're always a tough out, like you mentioned, Jackie. And it does feel like they're one of the teams that plays you in a way that can frustrate you and really bog down the game, which is obviously the opposite of what the Avalanche are trying to do. But Ezra, the third and fourth line, like we said, going to be pretty big tonight. What are your thoughts on that? And who do you think truly has the advantage in that middle six and the third and fourth line?
Yeah. Oh, well, I really like the way that the fourth line has played since Andrew Cogliano got back in the lineup. And I think that
Agreed.
that fourth line, especially with the way we've seen that even Frederick Olofsson can bring offense, I really like what that fourth line is bringing. And I think it's hard. Any other team in the league is hard pressed to match up with their speed and tenacity, which is pretty exciting. They don't have that much skill, but they're putting up points. So it's great. As far as the third line goes, I mean, I think we'll see the new look third line with Jonathan Drouin and next to Colton and Wood, and I think that's an interesting element because he brings more skill to a third line than most teams have on a third line. So that's pretty exciting, I would say. Looking at the Islanders, which I'm just pulling up now, who's on the actual lines. John Gabriel Pajot is the third line center with Oliver Wahlstrom and Simon Holmstrom. So that's a very Swedish line with the Stroms on both sides. But both Holmstrom and Wahlstrom are guys who can bring offense, who can bring offense when get put in the right position. And Pajot, he's a very good defensive center. He's not the most offensively gifted himself. So I'm not too worried about that line putting up points. But as far as a defensive matchup for, if they are defending our third line, they're pretty good at that. So that could be a challenge. And then, the Isles fourth line is their identity line that they've had forever. Matt Martin, Casey Zizekas, and Cal Clutterbuck. And the identity is like slow and truculent, I guess. So I'm not worried about that.
Yeah. The identity is be a giant and get in somebody's way. And that's kind of hard to do when these guys,
and then get paid.
I mean, their whole thing is getting hits in on the defense, and like they can maybe keep up with Jack Johnson, but they're not hitting anybody else.
I know, right? Yeah.
And then get paid for their lifetime by Lou.
Yeah,
that's true.
That wild. That is
not many can keep up and hit the Avalanche anyway in the first place. And I think you're kind of right though about like the trucking style of the Islanders, because they don't really have that quote unquote star talent anymore, like that one singular player that can make a difference. I think you could argue that for Barzal or maybe even Horvat on a night to night basis, but it's not like Jonathan Tavares that they had now a few years down the line. But yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it. Now that I think about it, they're kind of like the Seattle Kraken light, like of the East, honestly.
That's really interesting.
Well, they need young players.
They're like the slow version of Seattle. Seattle focuses so much on speed. Yeah,
they're like
hence the Seattle Kraken
version.
light.
Yeah, exactly. Totally.
Yeah, that's funny. Jeez, if they're so then does that make the Vegas Golden Knights like Seattle milk stout? Like, what is that?
Gosh, I don't know. I mean, I will admit though, because the Avs do play Vegas soon. That if both teams are still kind of high flying like they have been, who knows how that one will go.
Well, if
But
the Avalanche
that's
win
later down
tonight,
the line.
if the Avalanche win tonight, I'm putting money down that they're never losing. They're going to go 82-0, and
We,
we're just,
we haven't even mentioned yet that the Avs are going for their NHL record
that's right,
15th straight regular season road win,
road win. Yeah,
That also
which
makes
is
me
crazy.
nervous too.
I know
it's a trap.
that's why you said, Jackie, like they're gonna lose at least one. I was like, I hope it's not
Not
tonight. I want to
tonight.
make a
Yeah.
record.
Well, I hope it's
Yeah,
not
well,
tonight just because I don't like the Islanders. Like I could deal with the
well,
Penguins more, but
yeah, yeah. It's fine if Crosby beats us, but let's
and
talk
we
a
have
little
to
bit
beat
about that.
Buffalo. They're not playing well. Like
Yeah.
that one's just not acceptable. They lose.
Yeah, well, let's
Buffalo
touch
right
on
now.
that road win streak because that's pretty interesting. Why do you think that that's not even on really the tip of our tongues, us who find literally anything to talk about Colorado Avalanche related? Why is that really not something we're talking about, Jackie? Do you think it has to do with the fact that it's like over numerous seasons, or what gives?
Probably, and also just because it's like another one of those made up,
Weird.
like
Yeah.
like weird. When it happens, it's brought up, but no one ever thinks like, oh boy, this is a streak on the road. Win streaks are big, and those are always talked about. But
Yeah.
sure, it is impressive, and that also it doesn't count the playoffs, so you're taking away the losses against Seattle. It just,
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a few caveats to it that I think kind of makes it a little random, but winning on the road is impressive just in general. So it's good that they know how to do it. They do seem to play a little bit more cohesive on the road. I think that helps as well.
Yeah.
So just as
Well,
long as they
looks like
keep being a good road team.
yeah, they've been a good road team, obviously, as it shows, and hopefully they continue to be because that bodes well for them in the playoffs too. But we have a comment here from all the way from the Czech. So, to what do you mostly account the fact that Mikko Rantanen is so underrated, and how much of that is him not being from North America? I'll start with this one because I think that's a common question, and I think it has more to do with the team he's on and the players around him than it does necessarily. And maybe that has a tinge of the North Americanness to it because you got two of the best North American players on your team with you in Nathan McKinnon and Cale Makar. But Evan, what do you think of that question?
No, I think you're right about that, the team wise though. But that's a good question, Philip. Though.
Yeah.
Thank you for asking it.
Thank you.
And I will kind of agree with you though about like the North American side of things because you have Nathan McKinnon and Cale Makar, who are not only two of the best generational talents on this Avs team that are from North America, but Mikko Rantanen. We saw it last year when they went to Finland to play against Columbus that Rantanen was just showered with love there. I mean,
Yep.
You can only imagine that. And I'm sure Landeskog was the same when they went to Sweden for the very first time, right? So I think it's just kind of the different mentality, the regionally based, minds of North America that just kind of overlook Mikko Rantanen and Gabe Landeskog. And, they're not focusing on a bunch of huge Europeans unless they're like Alexander Ovechkin, for example,
Yeah.
right?
Well, it's funny. That's funny that you mentioned that because, like, if you look at even the NBA, some of their best players are European, but for whatever reason, they're perceived as less marketable than the North Americans, i.e., the NBA champion MVP Nikola Jokic.
I
But
was going to say, I know you're talking about him.
yeah. Ezra, what do you think of that? I agree that Mikko is wildly underrated. To what do you attribute that to?
Yeah, I think so too. But I agree with the overall perception that it might be an anti-European bias. I think that's very valid and most likely factors in. But another thing that I think we're overlooking is that he's not the best player on his team. He never has been. It's been McKinnon or Makar. Probably still McKinnon. I don't know. I lean Makar, but I think that's the thing. Like the debate about this team, who's the best player is McKinnon or Makar. Mikko's amazing, and he belongs in that debate, but he's not quite in it. So, and like we just saw with Evgeny Malkin getting left off the NHL 100 list by ESPN, he's not the best player on his team, and his team isn't doing that well, so they can't have two guys on that list. Is basically the logic, you know.
Yeah.
And
then
it's
he's
stupid.
like,
It's wrong. He belongs on the list.
and he's like half retired
Jackie.
already, but
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's
Well-
old, but he put up 80 points last year. I mean, he's still great. So yeah, I think that's a big factor in it. It's just if you're thinking about the best player, if you're looking for the best players in the league, you go team by team, and when you get to Colorado, Miko's third. He's not first.
Yeah.
You know. So.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that because before he developed into who he is today, that was probably still true when it was Nate and Gabe, while he was kind of
Definitely.
on the come up. So once he kind of came into his own, then came Cale Makar, and there went Tyson Berry. But Jackie, what do you think? Are you in agreement that it's kind of the North American bias thing, or excuse me, the European bias thing, but it's also just that he's not the best player on his team?
well, I think it's a lot of little things. I also think and that's part of it. His own fan base underrates him. So if the own fan base underrates him, why would the national media or the national fan base rate him more than our own fans? Like I think it's debatable. I really do. I think he was better than McKinnon and McCarr last year, and
Agreed.
not just because of the points. I just think his overall body of work, his overall game last year was better. So I don't think it's been settled. I really think he's there with the two of them, and they all kind of approach it different ways, and so it's a matter of what you value more. But I really think he's there. Like I think he's a top 5, possibly top 5 player in the league. And I know there's a lot of elite players, but he's right there in that 5 to top 10, top 5 mix, and I don't think he gets credit for that. So it's part of that he's undervalued just in general. It's part of it. He does have a couple great teammates. Doesn't help. So when you get to the national media, of course, they're going to go the easier routes, the McKinnon and McCarr. Sometimes you get the, oh yeah, Mikko Rantanen's here too. He's amazing. Like he just never gets highlighted. It would be nice to see him get highlighted on a national level. And maybe a little bit of the bias is there, even though I do think the media is pretty friendly to Swedes and Finns in particular. Like they do get a lot of attention. So I don't think it's necessarily a European bias. It's just all these little things that add up. But he's very personable. Like he was the one that spoke pretty much last year acting in the captain's role. And I don't really think he got much credit for that. Like he was the guy that was talking after every bad loss. So I guess at first I'd like to see him appreciated more locally before I'm worried about how he's seen nationally.
And I'll just add, I think nationally he's like a consensus, maybe the best right wing in the world, right? Like it's him, it's Pasternak, it's Kucherov, who are all European. There's nobody else in the right wing conversation that I can think of. Maybe
Draisaitl, maybe, but that's
is he
mostly
right
because of
wing? He's a
McDavid.
center.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's true. Yeah, I don't know.
But no, I know that's a valid debate. And then I'm forgetting Robertson, who's also a right wing.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Or no, he's left wing because Pavelski's the right wing. Huh.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I get your point though of like trying to like him more locally and trying to drum that up. I think he probably got the majority, or he got more love than he usually does locally because of his performances last season. And Jackie made a great point about him basically, quote unquote, filling the captaincy, last year too. So, I think if he puts up another, 100 plus points again, then maybe he will start getting, that respect that he deserves both locally and nationally. So that's the hope. Adrian, your mic is not working, by the way. I don't know what is up with it.
You know what? Now it is because
Yes, now it is.
That's what happens when you mute yourself and you don't unmute yourself. But all I was saying when you couldn't hear me was I'm here for it because I'm all about the Mikko love. When Mikko was coming up, even when he was just drafted, I had a good feeling just based on his body type and the fact that he seemingly already had a scoring touch. And I knew based on where the Avs sat that he was going to get his time to develop. And he did. And he turned into a really, really good hockey player for the Colorado Avalanche. So like I said, I'm here for the Mikko love. We need to be pressing the button for that horn every single time. But let's get into our favorite segment of the show, which is bold predictions. And Ezra, I'll start with you. Remind me what your bold prediction was and let me know if you were correct. Well, actually, I'll let you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll remind you of what it was because I for sure remember.
This
It
dance.
was. Oh, I do remember. It was. I said Bowen Byram was going to have his best game of the year.
You did.
Of the season so far. He was going to have a 2-point night. That didn't happen. He got 2 more penalties. So
yeah, 2-point night. Not quite. 2 more trips to
He
the
did have one
penalty
point.
box. Yeah, he did have a point.
and it might have been his best game of the season.
It might have been. And honestly, that penalty was kind of a rough one just because, well, the first one was kind of tough because he just kind of had to stick in a bad spot there. But Evan, we'll go to you. And I already shouted yours out because I remember the ones that I feel like are about to hit. And then I feel like I don't remember the ones that never kind of come to the surface. But yours was that Ryan Johansson would have 2 goals in the home opener. And then I added a little flavor to the end and said one would be a power play. I was right about that, but we were wrong about there being 2 of them. So
I thought about saying 2 in the week in the home opener, and I should have just done that instead because that hit. So
yeah,
well.
you should have. And then
well. I wanted to be real bold.
Exactly. Well, what are you going to do? That's why they call bold predictions, as we always say. And then Jacob, he, as I remember, for whatever reason, this one is still in my memory bank, but he had the whole third line collecting a point and one of them having a 2-point night, if I am correct. And that did not happen. Although the third and fourth line has been playing excellent. So I don't think that them coming up short of that bold prediction is really anything to scoff at. And then
sorry, go ahead. I was going to say, I will say that disallowed goal in that Chicago game, that would have hit. It would have hit.
Yeah, that's true.
But it didn't.
I didn't even think
unfortunately.
of that. Well, yeah, but
So
and that was when Druin was down there on the third line, which was kind of like a. If you'd have told me that before the game, I would have thought it was even less bold because Druin's got a good passing touch, and that was on display on that play. Too bad it got called back. I'm not about pulling goals off the board. I don't even remember mine. Do you guys remember mine? Because I don't remember mine. But when I don't remember,
was yours a hat trick? Was yours?
Yeah, mine. Yeah, yours was a hat trick. Somebody was getting a hat trick.
Yeah, so that was wrong. That was real wrong. So I'm gonna press this. We're gonna listen to the fun music.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
I call that bold talk.
I'm too early. Now that the music is over, will you pick hat trick for a third week in a row to go for the hat trick?
You know what? A hat trick of hat trick picks, maybe. Who knows? No, I'm gonna stray away from that. What were we gonna say, Jack?
I was just gonna say, how many hat tricks has there been? I know Matthews had 2. Did DeBrincat have 1? Is that like all the hat tricks there've been?
I believe you're right about that. Yeah.
Okay.
I think so.
Sorry, I was just curious. We're talking about trying to
think about how dumb I really am. You're just like doing a reconciliation of how silly my bold predictions truly are.
No, I mean,
no, I'm kidding.
I think an Av will get a hat trick this year. So
hey, I like that.
You can pick it every weekend.
Every week.
It'll hit eventually.
Yeah. All right, Mr. Managing Editor Evan, let's start with you. Your bold prediction this week.
You know, I was having difficulty kind of coming up with one. But I remember games that are going on this week, and one of them is the Avs and the Sabres coming up on. It's an early Sunday morning game, at least for us in the Colorado area. And there are 2 former Avalanche members on the Buffalo Sabres now, Eric Johnson and now Tyson Jost. So I'm going to revolve my bold predictions around them.
Nice.
I think both Johnson and Jost will record a point against the Avs in their game. I would hope it's just on like the only goal of the game, but we'll see.
Yeah, that might be the first game that they lose. I hope that that's the first game that they lose because that would be pretty impressive. But it's always the games against fresh and former Avalanche that the Avs seem to have a hard time with. So I like that one. And guess what?
That's a good point. Mm-hmm.
I wrote it down this time. So next week, we're not going to have any problems. Ezra, your turn. What's your bold prediction?
Well, I haven't had a single one come up right. And every bold prediction so far I've made has been something I wanted to have happen.
Yeah, you call them bold hopes.
This time, I'm going to say the Avs lose all 3 games this week.
Are we going with the reverse
Ooh.
jinx here?
I'm trying it.
Oh, I love it.
I mean, we'll find out in about
Okay.
what is that, 4
I like
hours?
it though. I like it.
So you're that the Avs will lose all 3 games this week. You know, I always say if you're a betting man too, that's the way to hedge your life, because if your team wins and you bet for the other squad, well, my team won. But if your team loses, well, at least I got this chunk of change in my pocket and the team paid me to watch.
So I expect if they all lose, you 3 are all giving me money.
You know what? Put it on my tab, all right? That's all I gotta say.
All right. Hey, Ezra and I have had negative predictions against the Avs. I hope you two have good ones against the good.
I don't know. Is that the theme of the week? Jackie, you go. You let us know.
Okay. No, I had a positive one. So
good.
I think that, and we haven't talked about him on this show, that Gerard deserves a little bit of respect, a little bit of credit. So I'm for playing well, and it's nice that people have recognized that. I think after dumping on him for like 3 straight years, it's nice to see a little Gerard positivity from the fan base. So I'm going to keep that going. I'm going to say he scores a goal this week.
Nice. It was goal from Sammy G.
Yes,
I'd like that. That'd be good. He's started off the season well, and all before it blows up in his face in December and people are calling to trade him again, because that's kind of how this all goes. But I would like that though. That would be good. Some good defensive depth scoring.
So that's just this week, or is that tonight?
I don't know. I'm gonna say this week.
Okay. I like that. I think that's bold enough.
But I'd put money on it though. So it's not just. I would actually put some money on it.
She'd sprinkle a little action on that bad boy. She's so confident.
It'll happen
I like it.
The next 3 games.
I like it. And you know what? You know me. Last year I spent like half of our season with a whiteboard behind me that said don't trade Sam Gerard, because the guy is just good, and he gets paid very, very reasonably to be as good as he is. I think that we're working in a surplus in terms of his contract currently. And what's funny is it's always the same argument, right? Is he's small and he gets ran against the bigger, tougher teams. This dude's been throwing the body this season. I don't know if you guys have paid a lot of attention. But little Sam Gerard looks like he's got something to prove out there, and he's doing it with physical play. And that's kind of just like, you know why a small guy can play physical? Because hockey isn't about being big. It's about being good at skating, and he's damn good at skating. So he can accelerate, and he knows how to use leverage. But I digress. Jackie, I love that bold prediction. I'm here for it. My bold prediction this week, I think I'm going to key on one of the new guys, somebody that you will not be surprised that I'm keying on. I'm going to say that Jonathan Drouin will have a goal and an assist this week. So between now and our next,
have to be the same game.
No, not in the same game. Okay. Like you, I'm going over the week's time until we meet again. But I think he does get the monkey off of his back, and I think that once that happens, we'll see him I hope we'll see him kind of come into his own. I actually do like him better so far on that third line than I did on the top line. I see a couple of heads nodding. Evan, what do you think of that?
I was going to agree with you. I think that's a good bold prediction, because that third line has found some good chemistry there with Drouin down there. I think Connor McGahey said the Roaring 20s line, which works well. Nice. Yeah, that's why Connor's great, man. We love Connor. But no, I think that's a good pick though. I like that one.
He said against the Canes, he said, force of nature versus assistive walking device.
I know, that was a good one.
The Canes, god dang it. So yeah, you're right. That dude is as creative as it gets. We have our friend here from Czech says, thanks for the answers and your work, guys. Happy to have you back with the new season. Keep it up. Fingers crossed. I wake up to yet another Avs destruction of the Islanders tomorrow. Yeah, I was gonna say,
Nice.
what time
Yes.
is the game on for you over there? So you're a dedicated fan. You should maybe
Late,
go
yeah.
to
Mhm.
bed.
Yeah,
And
we
then
appreciate all of our listeners, especially those that
Absolutely.
interact with us. Thank you.
exactly,
And those
especially
internationally.
yeah, across the
Yeah.
Yes,
world.
dedication.
We
I want to
global,
add one
baby.
thing about Drew N real quick. I
Go
think
ahead.
part of what's made him more effective down on the third line is he gets to be the primary puck carrier, and that really is what the skill set that he brings. You know,
Mhm.
he as a foil to McKinnon and Rantanen, he hasn't found his stride. So getting back to what he's good at, bringing the puck up himself, distributing, it makes sense. I'm glad it's
And then
does.
he doesn't have to be the one that's forechecking, which is what
Right.
is asked of him with McKinnon and Rantanen. So that's kind of
exactly.
That's a really good point because that's kind of his weakness, and I imagine the part of his game that Jared Bednar has him pulling his hair out about. You know, it's like, yeesh, guy, you're making this hard for me to keep you up there, and it didn't last very long. And I don't think that necessarily that's like a big slight on Drew, and I think that that was always the concern heading in, and it was kind of one of those prove it to me situations. And I don't think that Bednar's done putting him up there and
No.
finding out more. Plus, I think some time on the third and fourth line to get gelled with that kind of play style will help that side of Drew N's game. So I'm with you there, Ezra. I think you're keying on some pretty key and improving factors for Jonathan Drouin down there on the third line. We had another comment from our buddy from on the forecheck. Says Sammy G tonight +2 or better. Write it down.
I
Yeah.
like it.
And what do you know? It's the Nashville Predators site.
that's
One
true.
commenting
That's
on
true.
a
They
former
probably have a
Pred-
little leftover love.
I was gonna
probably.
say he just put in our like little work chat here. He goes, let me actually pull it up. He goes I come home with a sign, but oh my god, I finally found other Sammy Gerard lovers. I love y'all. So-
Oh my goodness! Then
Oh,
you
yeah,
haven't
this
met
is your
me
show.
then.
Yeah, this is your show. Yeah,
Love it,
that
love it.
you know the meme of SpongeBob, or I think it's Patrick or SpongeBob, and they're tied to something in the middle of like an amphitheater, and everybody's pointing stuff at him, and it's like, what opinion has you like this? And for me, that's always been that the Avs should hold on to Sam Girard as long as humanly possible. So you definitely have found your program if you are a Sam Girard lover, and honestly, if you're kind of tired of seeing Curtis McDermott playing for the Avalanche, you might also have found your program as well.
I have a
you got a perfect
Gerard.
grade from me last week.
I have a Gerard
I'm all
reverse
there
retro
right now.
jersey. That's
Oh.
I'm proud of that one.
Oh my
You got a
gosh.
Sammy G reverse retro, huh?
Yes,
Ooh.
the
Oh
my
Nordiques reverse
goodness.
retro.
Cool.
That is true fandom.
That
That's
is
really
a
cool.
prized one.
There it is.
I wore it to Montreal. It gets to go to
Nice.
special places.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I have the same jersey, but mine is the Cale Makar version, and that's my
Nice.
go-to on the big game nights. So, well, I think that's going to do it for us here at the Mile High Hockey Lab. Thank you, Ezra, Evan, and Jackie, for joining me. It's been an excellent episode. If I don't say so myself, I'm sure I'll be watching nothing but hockey tonight, plus a little bit of a celebration at Ball Arena with involving another banner. So make room up in those rafters, because if all things go to plan, hopefully the Colorado Avalanche will be putting one right beside it, and the Larry O'Brien and Stanley Cup can be roommates over there at Ball Arena for a little bit. Who knows? So in the meantime, I'm Adrian Hernandez. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share with your fellow Colorado Avalanche fans. We enjoy your company, and thank you to everyone who joined us and commented on the program. You all have a wonderful evening. Go out.
Welcome to
Mile High Hockey Lab.
Mile High Hockey Lab.